enter into in life is that of bringing a child into the world. It outlasts many marriages, it outlasts jobs and careers, it outlasts money and locations and businesses. It lasts until one or the other of you passes on. And most of us come into this world without any idea of how to raise children. We come in without any basic parenting skills, and the great tragedy is that most people don't make any effort to pick up any skills. It's possible today for you to learn so much about how to raise happy, healthy, self-confident, wonderful, loving, vibrant, fulfilled children. There's so much information available on it, and you know that about 80 to 90% of parents never bother to buy a book on the subject or consult an expert or even seek advice except from their mother-in-law or from the person in the backyard. Very important. Today, in this session, we're going to talk about how to raise super kids, and I'm going to give you some key ideas that you can use. And I have 3 kids who I think are super kids. I have Christina, who's 7, I have Michael, who's 5, and I have little David, who's 1 year old. And these kids are just great. And everything that I'm going to tell you, we use on them 7 days a week. And I can promise you this, the law of sowing and reaping is true with children. What you sow in your children, you reap in your children. Everything that you put into your children, you're going to get out, positive or negative. But if you put good into your children, the wonderful thing is that they will blossom like flowers. So this starts us off with a basic question. What is the role of parenting? What is the key role of parenting? The answer to that question, in my estimation, is very simple. The role of parenting, most important job that we enter into, the role of parenting is to nurture children. That's all. The role of parenting is to nurture children until they're 18 years of age, until they reach the age of maturity, and to build high self-esteem in those children. To build high self-esteem. In my estimation, this is the key role of being a parent. Nothing else is significant or important next to the building of self-esteem. Why is that? Because if you can raise a child to the age of 18 where they love themselves, they respect themselves, they unconditionally accept themselves, they consider themselves to be valuable and worthwhile and important young people, they're self-reliant, self-responsible, and capable of making their own decisions, then no matter what life can throw at them in the years to follow, you've set them off on a solid, rock-hard psychological foundation, and they can make their own way and make a wonderful life for themselves and other people. If, however, you give children everything else in the world, but you leave them without this self-esteem, if you leave them without this self-confidence, without this belief in themselves, without this conviction that they can do whatever is necessary to be successful, if you leave them anything except self-esteem, to that degree, you have not succeeded as a parent. So raising children and building high self-esteem in children becomes the organizing principle of parenting. The organizing principle means that you continually ask, knowing that everything counts, you continually ask, does this build self-esteem in my child? Is this situation, is this issue, is my response contributing toward building and nurturing this little human being that's been entrusted to me, or is it not? With Christina, my first child, wonderful little girl, I've explained to her at a very early age that she came to me, as Khalil Gibran explains in his book, The Prophet, she came to Barbara and I from God, and that our job is to take care of her and to love her until she grows up, and that she doesn't belong to us, and we don't own her, and our job is not to shape her the way we want her to be shaped. Our job is to nurture her and discipline her and train her and give her every opportunity to grow and expand and develop, but our job is just to take care of her until she grows up. And she understands that very clearly, that we are there to nurture her and to build high self-esteem, and that she came from God, and she thinks of herself as being really, really special, because surprise, surprise, none of her friends have been told that. So these are the organizing principles that we use with our children. Now, no parent is perfect. Parents make mistakes, parents get tired, parents get irritable, parents shout at their kids, parents spank their kids and punish their kids. But generally speaking, if we use the organizing principle of building high self-esteem in our children, these are the things to remember. Number 1 is destructive criticism is extremely painful to a child. Destructive criticism sets children up for a lifetime of inferiority complex, low self-esteem, fears of failure and rejection. So never use destructive criticism on your children. Never run your children down. Never use destructive criticism on your children. Instead, do everything possible to build them up. That doesn't mean that you don't discipline them. That doesn't mean that you don't control them. But you never say you're a bad boy, or you're a bad girl, or you're a little brat, or you're no good, or you never tell the truth. You never say anything to your children about themselves that you do not want to become part of their personalities. Because remember, it goes straight past the conscious mind into the subconscious and is programmed away and accepted as a truth because you said it, even in a moment of anger. So never use destructive criticism on your children. Children are very vulnerable to destructive criticism. Number 2, remember that lack of love, or love withheld, is the major reason for psychological, physical, and emotional problems in life. That children need love. And if you deprive children of love, and it is not, by the way, what you think inside, it is the child's perception. Everything is perception. Now, the child is pretty shallow in the formative years. The child doesn't know that you really love the child unless you tell the child, show the child, demonstrate to the child over and over and over again. Many children have grown up and found themselves visiting psychiatrists and psychologists and trying to wrestle through the problem that they never believed that their parents loved them. And if you talk to the parents, they say, well, of course I love my kids. They say, well, did you tell my kids? Well, no, I didn't tell them, but they know I love them. No, children don't know. They, as they say, they need the words. Number 3 is remember that children need a continuous flow of love and approval. Love and approval is the emotional, psychological lifeline that children have to have in order to grow. Just imagine that your children are on an intravenous, and this intravenous has the critical nutrients for the development of their personality. And the critical nutrient in that intravenous is the words and gestures of love and approval and a continuous flow. And if you cut off the flow, it's like cutting off the flow of nutrients or cutting off the oxygen flow to the emotional brain. They need it every day. They need it every night. They need it morning, noon, and night. They need it continuously. When they're growing, they're very much like growing children need a lot of food. You've got to have a lot of food because they're growing. They need a lot of emotional support when they're growing too. A 4th thing to remember is children need praise. Praise is what grows children. As a matter of fact, they found that when you praise a child, their physiological system actually vibrates with new energy. They need encouragement. Remember, children are afraid because they're little kids in a big world. They need encouragement all the time. You can do it. You can do it. Sure, you can do it. Go ahead. Give it a try. Also, they need reinforcement. Sometimes they fall on their face. Sometimes they do it right. They need to be told, hey, you did a great job. That's wonderful. They need to be praised and reinforced. They need patience. Children need a lot of patience because they seem to be slow in learning. The kindest thing you can do for your children is to be patient, be supportive, also to be loving, and also to be kind. Children need an enormous amount of kindness, and they need caring. They need tenderness. They need gentleness. They need, especially though, they need patience when they are the least patient. When they are the most exasperating is when they need the most patience from you, the most kindness, the most understanding, the most compassion. Now, the 5th point here is to tell your children you love them every day. Tell them you love them every day.